1. NASCAR Antitrust Update. 2311 and Front Row Motorsports compete as open teams. 2. Breaking. NASCAR court ruling impacts 2311 and FRM charters. What happens next? 3. NASCAR charter drama. IndyCar and Xfinity teams I-2311 and FRM's charters. 1. NASCAR Antitrust Update. 2311 and Front Row Motorsports compete as open teams. In a significant development within the NASCAR community, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have taken steps to ensure their participation in the Cup Series by filing the necessary paperwork to compete as open teams. This move comes amidst an ongoing antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR, highlighting the complexities and challenges faced by these teams in the current racing landscape. This weekend, both teams will see all 6 of their cars on the track for the Dover NASCAR Cup race, followed by another appearance at Indianapolis the following weekend. However, a crucial point to note is that if more than 40 cars enter any future races this season, those additional cars will need to qualify based on their performance rather than being guaranteed a spot. NASCAR has raised concerns that if the courts permit 2311 and Front Row Motorsports to compete as chartered teams, it could potentially diminish the prize money allocated to other teams that have signed their charter agreements. This situation raises questions about fairness and competition within the sport. Despite their claims to a federal judge that they would face irreparable financial damage if not allowed to race as charter teams, 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports have proactively filed to compete as open teams for the remainder of the season, should it come to that. In a recent filing with the U.S. District Court in Charlotte, North Carolina, NASCAR's Executive Vice President and Chief Strategy Officer, Scott Prime, confirmed that all 6 cars from these teams would indeed participate in the upcoming Dover and Indianapolis races, as the entry list for both events did not exceed 40 cars. Prime also mentioned that, beyond these 2 races, NASCAR has not received any applications for open cars for the remaining events on the 2025 schedule. It's important to understand that NASCAR allows applications for open cars up to 2 Wednesdays before an event. Notably, in the last 3 seasons, there have been no instances where the number of entries exceeded the available racing slots in the final 16 races of the season, which is the current count of events left in 2025. Should 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports be required to race as open teams, their drivers, Tyler Reddick, Bubba Wallace, Riley Herbst, Todd Gilliland, Zane Smith, and Noah Gragson, will need to qualify for each race, losing the security of guaranteed starting positions. This change would also significantly reduce the financial rewards each team could earn per race. It's worth noting that 13 teams have signed the new charter agreement, while 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports opted out of this agreement that commenced this year. The financial details regarding charter teams were not disclosed in Prime's declaration opposing the temporary restraining order that would allow these 2 teams to operate as chartered teams, but it was indicated that the figures involved were substantial, with the term million being mentioned. Prime, who previously managed the charter system during his tenure as NASCAR's Senior Vice President of Global Strategy, pointed out that the 2025 charter agreements included provisions for increasing total payments to teams over the 7-year term of the charters. He cautioned that if the court mandates NASCAR to recognize 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports as chartered teams, it would reduce the financial pool available to those teams that have adhered to the 2025 charter agreement. Prime argues that allowing 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports to be treated as chartered teams could hinder NASCAR's efforts to build relationships with new team owners looking to enter the Cup Series in 2026. This assertion raises an important debate about the implications of such decisions on the future of NASCAR. NASCAR's response to the team's request for a restraining order has been sealed, along with 36 of the 41 documents supporting NASCAR's stance. Among the unsealed documents are Prime's response, a declaration from attorney David L. Johnson, and 3 articles discussing charter issues, including quotes from 2311 Racing co-owner Denny Hamlin, who stated that the team would compete as an open team. Deb Williams, a North Carolina native and an award-winning motorsports journalist, has dedicated over 30 years to covering auto racing. Her extensive experience includes contributions to United Press International and various newspapers, magazines, and websites, such as ESPNW.com, USA Today, and the Charlotte Observer. Williams has received numerous accolades, including the American Motorsports Media Award of Excellence and multiple National Motorsports Press Association Writer of the Year awards. She has also served as managing editor for GT Motorsports magazine and was with Winston Cup scene for 18 years, including a decade as editor. In 2024, she was honored with induction into the NMPA Hall of Fame. 2. Breaking: NASCAR court ruling impacts 2311 and FRM charters. What happens next? A legal opening for 2311 and FRM. What's next? The recent court ruling has left a glimmer of hope for 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, FRM, as they prepare to race as open teams over the next 2 weekends. However, the judge's decision is not set in stone. According to Bob Pockrass from Fox Sports, the judge indicated that NASCAR has assured there will not be more open entries than available spots in the upcoming races at Dover and Indianapolis. Should this situation change, the judge has stated they would immediately reconsider its denial of a temporary restraining order, TRO. In a follow-up post, Pockrass elaborated that the judge believes there is no irreparable harm to the teams since they will be able to participate in races in the coming weeks without losing their drivers or sponsors before a preliminary injunction decision is made. This means that, for now, the teams cannot secure a temporary restraining order. Originally, 2311 and FRM were granted an injunction back in December of the previous year, which allowed them to compete under the 2025 charter agreement while they pursued legal action against NASCAR regarding this agreement. Both teams had acquired charters from the now-defunct Stewart-Haas Racing, which enabled them to expand to 3-car teams for the new season. However, this injunction was revoked by the Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals on June 5. The big question: will they regain their charters? This brings us to a pressing question: can 2311 and FRM reclaim their charters? Before the ruling, Pockrass shared insights on Kevin Harvick's happy hour, shedding light on the current situation. Some might argue whether they even have charters at this point, considering they did not sign the agreement for this season, Pockrass noted. This raises a significant question about the charters they purchased from Stewart-Haas. Will they be allowed to keep those? As it stands, it seems that both 2311 and FRM will field 3 open cars each at Dover, but the fate of the Stewart-Haas charters will be determined later on. 23XI's lineup includes drivers Bubba Wallace, Riley Herbst, and Tyler Reddick, while FRM features Noah Gragson, Todd Gilliland, and Zane Smith. Notably, 2311 is co-owned by NASCAR driver Denny Hamlin and NBA icon Michael Jordan, while FRM is under the ownership of Bob and Brad Jenkins. What are your thoughts? This situation is certainly complex and raises many questions about the future of these teams in NASCAR. Do you think 2311 and FRM will successfully reclaim their charters? Or do you believe the ruling will stand? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 3. NASCAR charter drama: IndyCar and Xfinity teams I-2311 and FRM's charters. Stop the presses. 2 of NASCAR's most talked about organizations may be forced to race without the golden ticket every modern Cup team craves, a charter. What sounds like a procedural scuffle has blown up into a fight that could reshape the series' power structure, and, here's where it gets controversial, open the door for outside parties, including an IndyCar heavyweight, to jump into stock car ownership. The short version, but stick around, the details matter. Late Wednesday afternoon, NASCAR's attorneys fired back at 2311 Racing and Front Row Motorsports, FRM. The two teams, who together possess 6 coveted charters, had asked a federal judge for a temporary restraining order, TRO, to keep those charters intact for 2025. NASCAR's response answers a flood of fan questions and drops a few surprising nuggets about who might scoop up those slots if the court rules against the teams. How did we get here? Last fall, NASCAR circulated its 2025 charter agreement. According to the sanctioning body, 2311 and FRM never signed it. No signature, no charter, at least in NASCAR's eyes. December 18, a judge granted the teams a preliminary injunction, temporarily protecting their charter status. One key argument was that star driver Tyler Reddick could bolt if the team lost its guaranteed entry. June 5, an appeals court struck down that injunction, yanking the safety net away. July 9, a rehearing request was denied, leaving the teams scrambling. Monday, this week 2311 and FRM filed for a TRO, hoping to freeze everything before the upcoming Dover and Indianapolis events. NASCAR's Wednesday reply repeats 2 core assertions. First, that the teams relinquished any right to those charters by declining to sign last fall. Second, that fears of an exodus by Reddick or major sponsors are overblown. In other words, NASCAR says, there's no credible risk of a talent drain if the charters disappear. Paperwork speaks louder than press releases. Adding another twist, the filing reveals that both teams have now filled out entry forms to compete as open, non-chartered teams at Dover and Indy. Should they actually line up without charters, their cars would lose automatic race berths and a sizable chunk of revenue, 2 reasons charter ownership has become the sport's hottest commodity. The sale rumor, fact or fear tactic? Earlier this week, 23XI and FRM alleged that NASCAR was already trying to auction off their 6 slots. NASCAR's official answer: no charters will change hands until the judge rules on the latest injunction request. And this is the part most people miss. NASCAR simultaneously confirmed that multiple buyers are waiting in the wings. The sanctioning body went so far as to list the categories. Established NASCAR teams. Xfinity Series organizations. Motorsports outfits currently competing in IndyCar and other series. That single paragraph triggered a volcanic round of speculation. Which Cup teams are chomping at the bit? Legacy Motor Club and Rick Ware Racing have openly hunted for additional charters and are themselves duking it out in court. On the Xfinity side, almost everyone points to JR Motorsports. Dale Earnhardt Jr. has long flirted with a full-time Cup move if the right charter surfaces. But the real bombshell is the IndyCar interest. Just last week, Racer magazine reported that Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, RLL, was eyeing a NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series entry. Could RLL or another IndyCar squad be ready to jump straight to Cup? If so, what does that say about the perceived health of each series, and could it ignite a new arms race between America's 2 premier forms of oval racing? What exactly is a charter, and why the frenzy? For newer fans, a charter is a bit like an NFL franchise license. It guarantees a spot on the grid and delivers a chunk of the purse money. Without one, a team must qualify on speed and earns a smaller slice of the financial pie. Since NASCAR capped the number at 36, values have skyrocketed. Recent sales reportedly hovered around $25 to $40 million apiece. That eye-popping price tag explains why 23XI and FRM are fighting so hard to keep theirs, and why potential buyers from other series smell opportunity. Imagine snatching up a charter at a court-discounted price, then riding the next meteorite's boom. Where do things stand right now? Courtroom clock: a judge could rule on the TRO at any moment. If granted, 23XI and FRM remain chartered, at least until the next legal chapter. If denied, they go open immediately, and the saga shifts to weather.